Student of the Game is brought to you by Noll Team Real Estate. Our mission is to eradicate mediocre real estate transactions. On your largest financial purchase, you shouldn't have to deal with average. We do this by helping you save time, reduce your stress, and helping you keep as much money in your pocket as we can. You can help us out by introducing us to your friends or family who want to make confident real estate decisions, whether buying, selling, building, or investing. At Noll Team Real Estate, we are connected to a group of realtors who sell 1 in every 8 homes in North America. If you know someone moving out of your area, there's a great chance we can connect them to somebody we know, like, and trust. Remember, relationships win. Welcome back to another episode of Student of the Game. We're here with my guy, Bobby Petras. Bobby, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
That's cool. Well, I think how most people our age meet is because our kids were playing some sports together, and you know, and we figured we had some similarities. We both have a sports background, athletic background, both business owners. And we've just really gotten to know each other, and I appreciate the friendship with you and Brandy. So appreciate you being on today. But why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about you, yourself, your background, where you came from. Right now, you own Priority Life Care, Mad Apple, CrossFit Gym, and you're an entrepreneur, and you have your hands in a bunch of things. But tell the listeners how you got to Fort Wayne.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Toronto, Ohio, not to be confused with Toronto, Ontario. It's a town of about 6,000 people in the eastern side of Ohio. It's where West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio meet on the Ohio River. We're affectionately called river rats there. That came from all the surrounding schools wanted to make fun of us, but like all of our parents grew up working in like a mill, almost all of them. So cool place to grow up. 3.5 miles wide or long, 2 miles wide. You can ride your bike everywhere. It's like when I take my kids back there, they love it because you can just kind of go.
Yeah.
Like many kids in a small town, I played every sport, football, baseball, basketball, track, and fell in love with every part of it, depending on what season it was. And so, in high school, I was a pretty good athlete in 3 different sports, went on to play, college sports. And how I ended up at Fort Wayne is I played arena football for a team called the Fort Wayne Freedom. And, having been from a small town, and even Tiffin's a pretty small town, when I came to Fort Wayne, I was like, this place is great. It felt like a small town, but to me had like everything that I needed.
Yeah.
And so, I played pro football for the better part of 3.5 years. And when I was done, I was like, there's, other than moving to maybe like Columbus, Ohio, because I think that's where me and my wife thought we would go, like Fort Wayne is literally home for me.
Yeah. So similar stories. We grew up in a small town in Michigan. There's like 4,000 people. And I think, in high school, we got our first McDonald's, which is kind of cool. Still not a stoplight in the community today. And then came to Fort Wayne to play basketball and fell in love with it. But I think that there's so many layers to what you're doing. Talk a little bit about Priority Life Care and where that came from.
Yeah, so I'll give you the quick version of how we got to PLC. So about 17 years ago, my sister came home for Thanksgiving dinner. And my sister was a banker in the corporate world, like Merrill Lynch, GE Capital, Fifth Third Bank. And she did lending in the senior housing space. And so she did primarily lending. If someone wanted to buy a nursing home, my sister's bank did the financing for it. And so to do that, she had to underwrite all the deals. So she saw how much they were making, how much they were losing. The great financial crisis of 2008 hits, and she's kind of on the sidelines and can't lend. And she comes home for Thanksgiving dinner and is like, look, we should all quit our jobs and start this assisted living management company. She's like, and at the time, my wife is a social worker. She's like, there's a social work aspect to it. My mom was an administrator at a building. She's like, you could be the administrator. I was in sales. I was really good at sales. She's like, you'll be the salesperson. She's like, I'm the finance person. She's like, we have it all here. So she brought a case of wine and an easel with an org chart and a business plan, which we still have here in the office. And, we're cheersing, drinking wine and, like, oh yeah, we're going to do it. maybe a day or two later, Brandy and I are driving 5 hours back to Fort Wayne, and she's like, "You're not going to quit your job, are you?" I had a really good job at the time. And she's like, and I said, "No, but my sister's probably onto something." So I would talk to my sister almost every day, like spitballing ideas or whatever. And so one by one, we either quit our jobs or got fired. I got fired. My mom got fired. I think Brandy was the only one that didn't get fired, and that's because when I got fired, we found out we were pregnant with our first daughter like 3 weeks after. And so we're in this like, oh my God, we're starting this business type thing. Like, I remember we called my mother-in-law first to tell her we were pregnant, and she like literally couldn't even talk. And she was like, "Well, Bobby doesn't have a job." And I was like, "Oh," and Brady's like, "You know what? We're going to call somebody else. Like, that's going to be," and she was obviously happy, but she was shocked, at the time.
Sure. Yeah. We want to share this good news with somebody who's excited about this. I think every small business owner can relate to, that one time in your life where, you got to figure it out. And I think all successful people have that mindset of like, I'm just going to figure this out. Like, I don't know what the next step is, but I'm going to figure it out. I kind of feel like that's where you were at.
I think, I talked to a lot of the kids I mentor about this at the time. It didn't seem like I was taking this like crazy risk. Like, I didn't have much to lose at the time other than like, my wife being pregnant. And so we kind of went through it though, right? Like we ended up selling like some of our furniture that we had at our house. We moved back to Ohio with my in-laws right after we had Bella. We tried to sell our house, but we couldn't because it wasn't worth what we bought it for. So like we tried to short sell it, which in hindsight was a bad idea. But we tried all this stuff because we really didn't have the money. And I look back on that as like, I tell kids this all the time. Like, if you have a plan, you have to jump out of the plane without the parachute. Like because if you have a parachute when you're starting a business, like you're prepared to fail. That's why you put a parachute on when you jump out of a plane, because otherwise you're going to die, right?
Sure.
And so when you start your business, if you say, I'm going to, whatever it is, I'm going to start a real estate company, but if that doesn't work, I'm going to do this. Like you've already failed. Like you're not going to be successful.
You got to burn the ships. There's a really good book. I forget the author right now. I've heard him speak before, but he says there's no plan B for your A game.
100%.
Really good book. So you've got this business, Priority Life. You started from nothing, humble beginnings, and talk about how big it is today, like 15 to 17 years later. And I think the listener needs to hear this, because the journey that you've been on, if you have the right plan, you start to visualize, where do you think you can be in 15 years? Where do you think you can be in 2 years? Where do you think you can be in 5 years, right? But 15 to 17 years later, like, where are you guys at now in this space?
Yeah, so we've got, I think at last count, 3,700 plus employees. We've got 65 communities. We're actively looking at bringing on 30 more. I think we're in 13 or 14 different states. It's been crazy, but along the way, that I have cashed in my 401k twice. I have refinanced my house 3 times. I have put my personal, self out there. My sister's done the same thing. My sister's my business partner in this whole thing. And then my wife, like along the way, has also done that. Like I said, we sold our furniture a couple of times. And I mean, those are the things like, I think we try to tell this story a lot because, somebody will see me riding in a nice car and they think, oh my God, he just had all that and hit it to him. But in reality, my mom got pregnant with my sister when she was 17 years old in high school, 16 years old, actually. Had my sister at 17. And I was born when she was 21. So my mom is super young. My dad's 5 years older than my mom. You can do the math on your own there. And when I was born, my parents lost their house. It got repossessed by the bank. And so we moved into a house that my grandfather owned, and it had a dirt basement. Okay. So like, if you ever like hear the term dirt poor, well, let me tell you what that means. So we lived in this house, and my bedroom was kind of in like a hallway, and you had to walk to my sister's room. And so one night I'm sleeping there, and I swear I see like a mouse or something on the floor, a rat or whatever. So I go into my sister's room, who's 5 years older than me. So I'm probably like 5 years old or whatever. She's 10. And I'm like, Sevi, is there any way I can sleep with you? And she's like, I'm sorry, you can't. She's like, but you can take the cat. So I took my cat pamper. I'm sleeping like this, I wake up in the morning to my sister screaming because she has to walk through the hallway that I sleep in to get wherever. She's screaming, there's a rat on the floor that's dead because my cat killed it. Come to find out, rats burrow through dirt basements. It's probably why there's not a whole lot of dirt basements today. So yeah, like I mean that's how I grew up. My parents then got divorced shortly after that. And I'm one of the like crazy lucky ones. Like my parents got back together when I was 13 years old and got remarried or whatever, but grew up split household. But my parents definitely could write a book, because my dad was at my apartment that I lived in with my mom every day, like with breakfast. We celebrated all the holidays together. And then when I was like probably 10 or 11, my dad bought a house. And this is like crazy. Me, my mom, and my sister moved into the house, and my dad lived in the basement. And so that was just like normal to me. I remember I got made fun of one time, and I got in a fight because they were talking about how crazy my parents were. And I went and told my dad, it's like, can you believe this? And my dad's like, well, you know what? They're really not wrong. It's really non-traditional. And I'm like, but it was normal to me,
Yeah. Well, and I can see a lot of that through, the way you live, and, the way in which you're raising your kids, and you're bringing their friends over. Like your house is the, house that everybody wants to be at. And it probably was modeled for you from your dad. Like, hey, whatever you're going through, man, like this is our family house. That's pretty cool. So in all things, whether you're small business, big business, in sports, we talk about this a lot. We talk about mastering the fundamentals. In you having this massive growth and success that you're having, what do you think the fundamentals are? Like, what are the things that you're mastering like every single day in your world, whether it's, elite communication or building relationships? Like how are you growing Priority Life Care through the fundamentals?
Ours are simple. We have 3 rules that we run the business by. One is to talk. So communicate. In our business, it could be, I'm at the corporate office. So like talking to all the people that work here, right? Mm-hmm. Talking to our buildings that we support, talking to the regional people that support them. At the building level, it's talking to the residents, it's talking to the resident families. And my sister and I are trying to talk to all of them, right? Because we want to over communicate. Second part is to listen, and that's different. Like I had a conversation with my CFO yesterday. She said, I need to vent. Can I vent to you for 30 seconds? And after that, I'll give you a solution. 100%. I'm here for you. So we're trying to listen and gather as much information as we can. And the third thing, which is the most important thing, is don't be an asshole. Yeah. And it's like, we just wholeheartedly believe that you can be very successful in this world and not be an asshole doing it. And our business is strictly driven off of empathy. We are taking care of people at our buildings that do not want to be there, right? Like there's not one person you will go poll 1 million people. Do you want to end up in an assisted living community? And they'll all say no, right? All of them had a qualifying event, or their spouse got sick and they moved in with them, or they fell and broke their hip. You name it, it happened, right? And so we have to have an extreme amount of empathy to make that transition easier, and then to make their lives better while they're there.
Yeah. It's one of our core values in our company at Noll Team Real Estate is serve others, and I think that's the same thing. It's like it's serving. It's understanding that if I don't serve other people, I don't have a business. And empathy, having empathy is understanding what the other person is going through. In real estate, we have a lot of conversations because, people think like, oh, I just, I'm going to buy a new house because I want one, right? And I think a lot of times people need to understand that there's a lifestyle change that's happening, which is why people then employ us. And a lot of these lifestyle changes that happen in your space are, we're taking the keys from mom and dad, we're selling the house for mom and dad, and we're putting them in the home. So for you to have those fundamentals, I think are vital. When we're talking about falling in love with what you do, like a lot of people hear your story and, maybe they see the Bobby and Brandy today and they're like, oh, that's cool. That's my goal. They don't realize what you went through to get there. Yeah. And I think that's the part of the story that people really need to hear. Like, hey, your life can be different 15 to 17 years from now, but are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to put in the work? And, we tell all of our kids, you can be great at anything you want if you fall in love with practice. And I don't care what it is. You could play the piano, you could do dance, you could do an instrument, you could do sports, but if you literally fall in love with the practice. So in your world, when people see success, what are some of the daily disciplines or the daily habits or the things that you just absolutely love to do that most people may not sign up for if they saw that you did those?
Well, yeah. Well, so, you and I have similar backgrounds. Like, a lot of my success is driven, or my daily habits are driven from being an athlete. And I learned from like a really young age that like I love practice. Like I actually was like that idiot kid that loved practice. I like to run before and after, and all this stuff. I liked it almost more than I like to play the games. And when I got to college, I learned that I was special in that because I really like the practice. And, I believe the kids now would call me a tryhard, but like, that's how I was. Even when I was either the scout team guy or I was the captain of the team, like I was maximum effort all the time, because one of my coaches told me, we were doing a walkthrough one time and one of the guys was, not paying attention, doing whatever. And he said, just because we're going half go doesn't mean you're half ass. And like, I think about that all the time. Like, so I don't know. I've adopted that. I've always believed that if you want to maximize every day, you have to get up early. And if you talk to anybody that's successful, I don't know one person that says, I sleep until 9 o'clock every day and then I get all my shit done at night. I mean, like even, like Elon Musk is probably extreme. Like he only sleeps like 2 or 3 hours, but every other person I've ever come across that's had any level of success, they get up early every morning. So my typical morning is I get up around 5:30. I get in my sauna for somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. I get in my cold plunge for 2 to 3 minutes, and then I get in my hot tub. When I'm doing that, I'm typically either brain rot scrolling on my phone just so I can like have something where I don't have to think. I'm doing some sort of affirmation meditation, or like my latest thing is I've been trying to learn Spanish like for the last like 7 or 8 months. So I'll do my Duolingo, for those like 15 or 20 minutes that I'm kind of like taking care of myself. And I think it's uberly important, especially like if, you're the man or the woman of the house, or you're the main provider, like you have to take care of your health first before you do anything else. And I use this all the time. When you get on an airplane, in the event of cabin pressure failure, put on your oxygen mask first before helping others, because you can't help other people if you're dead.
No.
Right. So like
you're in bad health. Absolutely.
That's it. I mean, so I think being obsessive about being healthy is a direct correlation to being successful in business. And I say that because I don't meet a lot of people that are uberly successful and uberly wealthy that are also like pretty healthy
and in shape and taking care of themselves, right? Like, you may have an injury here and there, but at the end of the day, I think they're relentless in understanding that your mind and your body are your best assets when it comes to performance. So the fundamentals for you in what you're doing is making sure that you can intentionally have some focus time. Either I need to downshift and not think about anything and give myself some space, or I need to go into, think mode, creative mode. What problems am I dealing with? Like, let's get my body right. Let's get my mind right. Is part of what you love to do. Anything else? I know when we talk about falling in love with practice, you also own Mad Apple. We're talking a lot about Priority Life Care, but talk a little bit about Mad Apple and how that works and what that is here in our local community.
Yeah, so Mad Apple started as a CrossFit gym, probably 13 years ago. And just something my wife kind of fell in love with doing. And then, started her own thing, have this amazing community. I think CrossFit's the closest thing that you can get to being part of a team. And we have tons of people that were former athletes and tons of people that were never athletes, but they all really click. And whatever class you go to, that's like your team. Like if you're going to 930, like you're on the 930 team. And so it's been amazing. Out of that has spun Mad Apple Sports Performance. So, we focus on, grade school, middle school, high school, college, and professional level athletes that are in there. Like Luke Goody is one of our clients right now. He's, got a contract with the Lakers. And then we've spun off of that Mad Apple softball, Mad Apple baseball. And so we've got 15 softball teams and I think 13 baseball teams right now. We acquired the PFW, your alma mater, PFW baseball softball fields. And so that's kind of our home base. And then we've got a 18,000 square foot baseball softball indoor facility up north. And then we've got a 15,000 square foot training facility on the southwest. So it's, more of a passion project. We've got great people running it. But that's certainly not the business I'm paying my bills with. Sure.
But a lot of lessons from that too. What have been some challenges with the gym?
COVID for sure. That was a wrench. When COVID hit, Our private electric business, COVID was rough. Like, don't get me wrong, but the gym, like, we had to shut down. Like, it was a state mandate, local mandate. We let all of the members borrow all the equipment, and then, like, I mean, we couldn't even go into the gym. That was rough. And then I think the other part too is the structure of it is that people think of, oh my gosh, I have to get in shape before I start CrossFit. It's the exact opposite. Like, there's scaling options for everybody. Like, we have what a high rocks class, which is basically like classical zone 2 training. We've got yoga classes. We have just like actual stretching classes. We have CrossFit classes. We have sports performance. There really is something for everybody. And so I think the biggest struggle is people need to understand, like, you actually go there, like 90% of the people that are at the gym are trying to get in shape. It's the 10% that you see on TV that are all ripped and all this stuff that you're intimidated by.
Yeah, they're competing and they're big time athletes, and
yeah, but that's such a small part of the gym. It's like it's just the one that gets magnified the most.
Sure. You speaking of health, right? Like I feel like you have this, we use the word relentless. You have this relentless ability to defy the odds. You went on this journey of trying to play college basketball. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, I do a lot of stuff with the University of St. Francis here in Fort Wayne. I had met with the athletic director and one of the football coaches about doing some donations to the football team. And I had mentioned that I had 2 regrets. One is that I didn't finish my master's degree. I started it the year that we started Priority Life Care, and I quit right in the middle. For whatever reason, two of the professors gave me a C, 2 of them gave me an F. And I was just like, whatever, I don't need my master's degree. And the other one is I didn't play college basketball. I got asked to play essentially every year that I was in school because I was a pretty good basketball player. But I had blinders on because I wanted to be a pro football player. And I knew the more I played basketball, the more weight I would lose and yada, yada, yada. So I had recently enrolled to finish my master's degree at Tiffin, which is probably somewhere on the wall behind me. And so the athletic director goes, I could probably help you with the basketball part. Oh, what do you mean? He's like, well, you probably have some eligibility left. And so, NCAA, I don't know what the new rule is going to be, but the old rule is you had 10 semesters to play roughly 5 or 6 years, wherever it would shake out. Mm-hmm. In the NAIA, you have 10 semesters, and once you start in the NCAA, your clock starts. In NAIA, it's unlimited. You could start in 1970 and you could finish in 2025. So when the athletic director looked at my transcripts, he's like, you have 1 semester of eligibility. Basketball's a 2-semester sport. But he's like, it'll be perfect. You can train with the team. St. Francis has a JV team. You can play at all those games, and maybe you'll get into a varsity game. So I'm like, all right. So I call up Chad Lacrosse, who his daughter Maya played with Bianca in volleyball. And I was like, hey, would you mind having me on the team? He's like, actually, if you're in shape, I'd love to have you. And we're about the same age. And so I show up to the first, right around this time, actually, 2 years ago. They have a camp every year. And the players work the camp, and then after, like, they practice or whatever, or scrimmage. And we're at this practice, and I remember one of the kids is like, why is there a coach with a uniform on? Like, what's he warming up for us? And this kid, Isaiah Malone, he's like, Bobby, you're playing with us, right? And I'm like, yeah. And the kid that asked about was Damari, who lives with me now. And he's just shaking his head like, man, what am I getting myself into? And so, yeah, man, I went at it. I hired Brandon Evans from Pro Standard. I'd go to Woodside every morning at 5 a.m. and we train. This actually, I guess I would have started 3 months ago, 2 years ago. So 5 in the morning, I'd go train for an hour at Woodside and then go back, shower, get ready, get the kids to school. And then I would sneak in time. I bought a Dr. Dish machine. I had a small indoor court. I would shoot. I remember telling you once, I shot 1,000 shots, and you're like, well, how many did you make? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, it only matters how many you made. I was like, oh man. So, I mean, I started this routine. Then, like, I got acute Achilles tendinosis because I was shooting so much and playing so much. And I really adopted the recovery kind of part of that. And so fast forward to, I did the whole off-season training. Like, I mean, I'm going to 6 a.m. workouts. I'm enrolled at St. Francis and taking classes. And we're getting ready for the first scrimmage. Like, the first scrimmage is like Wednesday. This is Tuesday. And the athletic director calls me. He's like, hey, you can't play tomorrow. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I messed up. You're ineligible. He's like, you're one semester over, not one semester under. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? And so I appealed to the NAIA a bunch of times. I finally got denied 3 times. And my lawyer's like, you can sue the NAIA. They'll put an injunction and you'll get to play. But what might happen is they're going to deem you ineligible and like, it'll mess your team up. And I'm just like, it's not worth it. I got into doing that very selfishly to score 2 points and for everyone to be like, oh, look at me. Look what I did. What happened is I met all these kids and like, I'm in the locker room with them. Like, I'm in the locker room. Like, you know what it's like in the locker room. And by the way, I'm here to report it's the same way. They're rude. They're crude, making fun of each other, fighting each other, just like we did in the 90s.
Yep.
And I'm like, I remember telling my wife, I was like, I have higher calling, higher purpose, whatever. And like, I can actually affect change in these kids' lives. And 2 of those kids are like my kids now, Isaiah and Damari. Like, they live with me when they're home. Damari actually lives with me full time. And I wouldn't change that experience for the world. Now, I did get lucky. The season ended. Luke Cummings, the coaches, called me and said, hey, can I borrow your 15-passenger bus? I said, yeah, sure. What do you want it for? Well, we got invited to a non-sanctioned tournament in the summer at Indiana Wesleyan. And we want to know if you'll play. I'm like, yeah.
Absolutely.
I stayed in shape, honestly, like in my mind, like something's going to happen. And so, yeah, I got to play in a game. I scored 8 points. I went 2 for 2 shooting 3-pointers. And poor kid, I drove to the lane and kind of hit a little floater on him. And we won the game. And so
it was documented. It was documented. That's awesome. I remember the news did a story on it, and you guys had a nice little video. But talk about some of the lessons. You know, you talk about the locker room, and I tell people all the time, like, I have a master's degree from the locker room. You know, everything I learned about business was from the locker room. Like, what are some of the things that you really are impacting change in some of these young student athletes? What are some areas that they're leaning on you for?
Well, I think a lot of them come to me for business and fatherly advice, you know. I mean, because of the age gap, I'm 45. When I was with him, I was 44. So, right, most of those guys are 18, 19, and I think our oldest kid was maybe 22 or 23. So a lot of that, right? And then I would say I learned a lot from them too, man. Like, you know, there's definitely in society today, I think for a good reason, we're a little more reserved, but there are some of those things like I really miss. And making fun of each other, like when you have a close bond, and I'm sure you do it with your family, right? Like I got made fun of immediately. Like there was no like, the gloves are off. And so
what's up, Unc?
Exactly. I love that camaraderie. And I told the kids this too, because we had some conflict on the team. And I'm like, look, you're going to be on teams when you work where you're not going to have anything in common with them. I said, at least in the locker room, you all play basketball. Yep. I said, you're going to go work at a company. You won't have one thing in common with this person, and you're not going to like them, and you're going to have to figure out a way to work with them. Yeah. So like conflict resolution, I think, is probably the biggest thing that you learn from being on a team.
Did you become a better leader at PLC when you were in that locker room, and it just reminded you, like back in the day when I was an athlete, these were all, you know, fundamentals? Like, did you go back to PLC and feel that you were a better leader, had more confidence? Like, was there any spillover?
I think I had a little bit of my athletic swagger back. I think when a lot of athletes talk about this, like, and I'm sure you remember this, Brad, when you would go home from college and somebody would say, hey, Brad, what are you doing? I'm a basketball player at IPFW. I'm the shooting guard. That was your identity, right? Mm-hmm. I remember very specifically, I went home. I was no longer playing professional football, and somebody said, hey, what are you doing? I was like, I'm a salesman. I was like devastated. My whole identity was gone. So I feel like I got some of my like athletic identity back. CrossFit's different. Like CrossFit is competing, but it's more like it's a participation sport. You
Sure.
have to qualify for some events, but for the most part, like people are cheering you on just because you're doing it.
Yeah.
Playing basketball in your 40s with college players is it was hard. So like I wanted to do it. I don't know that it made me a better leader at PLC. I'll tell you what it taught me though, is it did teach me a little more humility because
Mm.
I haven't been on a real team situation when I wasn't one of the best players, like ever.
Yeah.
I wasn't the best player like on the Freedom, but I was one of the better players. And at Tiffin, I was like the defensive player of the year. And in high school, I was all state, like same stuff that you went through. This time, I'm arguably the worst player on the team. I'm the biggest liability. Now I'm working my ass off, but like it's humility,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. It was a effort and humility every single day. Your story is fascinating, man. Like just the starting from where you did, and then having the athletic success that you did, and then starting over in business, starting from nothing. You know, Bella's getting ready to be born, and you're having a baby, and now you quit your jobs, getting fired. Literally a rags to riches story. What are some of the greatest lessons that you hold with you today from all of that?
You know what? Hard work pays off. I've got a text thread with Isaiah and Damari. It's literally HWPO. Like I truly believe that you can be successful in anything if you want to work hard at it. And I think today it's even easier. We've got all these AI tools, and if anyone's listening, if you're not adopting AI, you're going to get left behind. I got news for you. But you can build your whole day. Like I actually just built a point system for Damari, Bella, and Bianca for the whole summer. And it's daily points you can earn, and it's workout, it's recovery, it's making your bed, it's what your nutrition goals, like it's all this stuff because those three come to me and say they want to be a college athlete, a professional athlete. I'm like, here's the playbook. If you don't follow it, it's your fault. I mean, you've been to my house. You have everything at my house. I mean, there's literally everything at my house for you to be successful as an athlete. And I think if you apply the same ideas to business, you can be successful at anything. And I also would tell people, if they want to start their own business, don't like worry about the how. I don't think the how, like you get the stuff done, is important. The why and what like you want to do, that's important. Like the how kind of like works itself out. I'm sure there's multiple things that you achieve success in where like, I don't know how I did that, but you did it, and you look back and you're like, I did it because I was focused on the what.
Yeah, that's part of figuring it out, but it's also one thing we talk about in our family is availability is your best ability. A lot of times, you've heard that said, and sometimes it's just showing up, right? Just showing up, falling in love with that practice, just showing up every single day. A couple closing questions for you about legacy. So you're doing all these things, you're starting to give back to others. You're very involved. You're very generous. What do you want your legacy to be? Like 50 years from now, your kids, your grandkids, like what's important to you about, who you are? And this goes into the question of like, what does winning at the game of life look like for Bobby and Brandy?
Yeah. Well, if my kids don't think I'm a great dad, that would be devastating, right? Like everything that me and my wife do is to benefit our children. Secondarily, my wife and I have a nonprofit, the Bobby and Brandy Petras Foundation, and we focus on underprivileged youth with sports specific, just because that's kind of how I grew up. Like my first brand new pair of shoes I was in 5th grade. I was playing basketball. I was the second worst player on the team. I bought a pair of Reebok pumps from Richard Trascoma because he got new ones for $20. And I bought if you remember, you could get this like shoe polish and put on the white shoe polish. And so for like a day or two, they look great. My mom comes to my game and she's like absolutely embarrassed that I have these like ratty shoes on, but I didn't want to ask her for shoes. Like I knew money was tight. And she took me to the store in the mall called Kelly Mike's, and I got a pair of Andre Agassi tennis shoes because I like their like green and black. And man, I've never felt taller. And so I don't know, like giving back is like at my core, and I hope people remember me for being generous. But at the end of the day, like my biggest focus is like I want my kids to think that I was a great father.
That's fantastic. You're one of the few businesses like us, and I know when people get started, this tends to happen a lot. But Lindsay and I have been working together for a while. You and your wife Brandy work together. What's that like, or what advice would you have for married couples that are in business together?
And weather the storm, right? I think we do a pretty good job of, Brandy's the boss of the house, and I'm the boss at work, even though I don't like that term. It's been good. My wife is incredible. She's our chief revenue officer, and she's like literally the best salesperson ever. It's hilarious that she went to school to be a social worker, and she is just like a phenomenal salesperson. Our sales culture at our company and the training is second to none. And honestly, it's like an industry standard. I mean, if we could stop what we're doing, and Brandy and Jill, who works with her, they could go out and just sell that service and make it like a real business. But I work with my sister and my mom too, so that dynamic's different. I think my sister and I, for the most part, almost agree on everything, but we're both really good at being able to push back on each other when we don't agree. And we get, she was in town this week, and we got into it a couple of times, but it's like, all right, whatever, let's move on. My mom is like you want to talk about an A-type, super strong personality. My mom doesn't like you, you'll know about it. If my mom likes you, I don't know if you'll know. And, she doesn't have a problem, protecting her own. And which she's got a very different leadership style than I do. And I have to remind her of that. But there's definitely there's a lot of personal dynamics in family business. I'm sure you guys deal with it all the time that you have to take it into consideration.
Yeah, that's great. You've been through some hard seasons. What are you sharing with your kids? Because we talk about this a lot. Like, people that look at you, people that aspire to be like you, they weren't there during the trying times. How do you share with your kids, like, this isn't how it's always been, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to underprivilege your kids. I think, I don't think you want to take things away, take experiences away from them just to prove a point. But how do you remind them of like where you came from to where you're at, and instill those same values?
So it's a great question. I get asked this all the time, and a lot of my friends and I differ on this. Okay. I'm not hiding the fact that we do well. Okay. The house that I live in, my kids aren't stupid. The car I drive, my kids aren't stupid. So for me to just be like, no, you can't have that, or we're not doing that, because I think is ridiculous. That's just my opinion. I've got some people that are like, they make their kids earn every quarter or whatever. I'm not like that. I didn't grow up with anything. So my wife is way better than me. I have a tendency to overgive to my kids, because if it's something that I wanted as a kid, I knew I couldn't have. Like if the He-Man, or the G.I. Joe or the Death Star, whatever, like if I saw that for sale, I'd buy it because I wanted that really bad when I was a kid. My kids know very pointedly that they're not wealthy. My wife and I are, and they don't have anything. Like, they have to earn everything. And I say this all the time to my kids and Isaiah and Damari. I'm like, you guys argue with me all the time. You tell me I don't know this. Tell me I don't know that. It should be very easy for you to achieve success because you're already smarter than me. I mean,
yeah.
And I honestly kind of want my kids to have that mentality. Like, my dad did it. And I tell people, not just my kids, all the time, I will give them probably more details about what we've done than I should. But I want them to know that they know one person that did it, and it makes it that much easier. So Walker Russell, great example. Yep. His dad played in the NBA. Okay. He grew up around the Pistons bad boys and all this stuff. And he told me, he was like, I was good. He's like, I was probably not better than some of these other guys. He's like, but it was so tangible for me that it was easier for me to achieve. I wasn't like fumbling over the trying to get there. Like, he's like, I'm going to get there, because why wouldn't I get there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
He had the blueprint, right? Just like your kids have the blueprint. I love that. As we wrap up, one of the things we like to say on this podcast is relationships win. Again, the game of life, relationships win. And I can't get to where I'm at without key relationships. You can't get to where you're at without key relationships. And the kids these days say, give him his flowers, give her flowers, right? It's the accolades and it's the appreciation. Who's somebody that has been instrumental in getting you to where you are? Who's somebody you want to give some flowers out to today?
For sure, my dad. I mean, both my parents, my wife, and my sister. But my dad, I'm a guy playing sports. I mean, my dad worked in a mill. So my dad went to Marshall, played football the year after the plane crash. So the movie We Are Marshall is like literally about his team. Knocked up my mom, had to drop out of college. But my dad worked in a power plant, and without telling us, went to night school and got his 4-year degree. Now, why we didn't celebrate this when I was a little kid, I'll never know. But so but my dad would work like 16-hour shifts in the mill and come home and sleep for 4 hours. And every single time I asked this guy, Dad, we throw baseball. Dad, we throw football. Dad, yeah, it was always yes. Now, sometimes he was half awake, but my dad never told me no, not one time. And so like, I carry that with me. I think, both my parents worked extremely hard, multiple jobs and all that stuff. But like, when I look at someone that believed in me, and I'll leave you with 2 stories. When I was in 8th grade and I was going to be a freshman, we were going to weight training. It's like the first time you can train with a high school. And so my dad picks me up after weight training one time, and we're driving back home, and he's like, you know what? You're going to be the starting quarterback on the varsity next year. I was like, I was like, I don't think so, Dad. I was like, Mark Kelly, who had graduated, I was like, I'm not as good as Mark Kelly, and I don't think I'm ready for that. My dad pulls the car over. We're up on a sidewalk, and he's like, F Mark Kelly. I'm like, what? He's like, if all you ever want to be is as good as Mark Kelly, you'll never be shit. And I was like, he's like, because if your goal is only to be as good as him, he's not even good. He's like, you're going to be way better than him. He's like, if your goal is to be the greatest quarterback of all time, he's like, don't even do it. All right. So, I mean, we drove home, and I'm thinking my dad is absolutely crazy. But he literally set something in my brain.
Yeah.
Guess what? I was the starting quarterback the next year. And I was, when I finished playing high school in Toronto, I was the greatest quarterback that ever went there. Fast forward to when I'm in college. Now, I had went to Finley my freshman year. I lettered. I left. I went to Tiffin. I played receiver because I was fast. So I was a quarterback, played receiver. I didn't get switched to defense until almost the end of my junior year, which free safety is like my natural position. But I remember calling my dad. I was a junior, and I was like, because our dream was always for me to be a pro football player. And I literally called him. I said, hey, Dad, I think the dream's dead. I don't know if I'm ever going to start at Tiffin. And, he could just set these, and he's like, no, he's like, you can't give up. Like, he's like, you have to show up every day. Like, all you need is your opportunity. All you need is your opportunity. So my junior year, we played a game, and I just played special teams. I barely played. So after the game, I just went to the weight room. I'm like, I'm going to work out. The coaches are there kind of like getting ready to go over the film or whatever. And the head coach comes up to me and goes, you really want to play, don't you? I said, I'm not just in here for my health coach. And so the defensive coordinator happened to be there too. And he's like, he always called me Bobby P. He's like, Bobby P, I heard you were really good free safety in high school. I was like, yeah, it was all state. He's like, you're rolling with me tomorrow. I go defensive practice that week, right? I'm the backup to the starter who's like an all-conference guy. He gets hurt that practice. I start that week at defense. I basically never come off the field after that. I played a lot for him, like the last 5 games of the year. I get named team captain in the off season, become defensive player of the year the next year. If I don't have my dad telling me that, I'm nowhere. I wouldn't have been in the weight room. I would have just kind of I would have finished and got my degree. So my dad's hugely influential.
Man, shout out to Mr. Petras. I think every successful person has somebody that speaks life into them, and kind of just checks them when they need to check. Man, that's an awesome story. I didn't know that about your career or your dad. So, shout out to Mr. Petras. Flowers for him. Bobby, thanks for being a guest today, man. I appreciate it.
Dude. Thanks for having me, man. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right, that's a wrap. If you like this episode, screenshot this, tag Bobby Petras or myself, share it with a friend. Everybody that you know needs a coach, and we're excited to be your coach today. If we can inspire you and help you win, that's our goal. That's a wrap.